Alright, so this lesson is on angle relationships. So I'm going to go through, we have 5 different kinds of angle relationships we have to talk about today. So we'll kind of touch upon each one of these topics. We'll talk about what they look like and some examples. Alright, so we have what's called vertical angles, and it says two angles cross across from each other on intersecting lines. They're always congruent. Remember that congruent means equal in measure, equal size. All right, so if you crisscross two lines, so I take one line and I crisscross like that, okay, if I numbered these, and remember you can number, it makes it a little bit easier. If I number these, if I were to take a protractor, and a protractor, if you remember back when you got to use them, they kind of look like kind of these funny looking guys, and they measured degrees, so you could actually measure an angle and find out what angle measure, what degrees an angle was. Okay, I don't know what grade level you did, but you did use something like this. This is called a protractor. Okay, all right, so anyway, if you were to lay a protractor down on this straight line right here and measure angle 1, and then you were to take the protractor and measure these two guys, you'll find that angle 1 and angle 3 are the same size. Okay, so measure of angle 1, remember we use a little m to mean measure, that means degrees. The measure of angle 1 equals the measure of angle 3. And same idea, if I were to put the protractor down, like if I were to put the protractor down on here, if I measured angle 2, and then I put a protractor down on here, like that, just laying it on a straight line, I will find that angle 4 has the same measure of angle as angle 2. So angle 2 equals angle, I forgot to put the little m in there, measure of angle 4. Okay, so those are equal. So again, you would say angle 1 is congruent to angle 3, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 4. Okay, that's the definition. This means the measurement. This says that the actual pictures look the same. The same sign, congruent. That's the congruent symbol. The little equal sign with a wavy on it. Okay. All right, so that's vertical angles. That's all you need to know about it. And again, they're formed when you cross two lines, the ones that are across from each other. That's what it says, the angles are across from each other. So 1 and 3, 2 and 4, they're equal to each other. Okay, next thing is the linear pair. Okay, the linear pair says two angles that are adjacent and supplementary, they form a right line. Actually, since I'm using the word adjacent here and you don't really know what that is, let's jump over here to adjacent angles and let's talk about adjacent angles. All right, adjacent angles are two angles that are next to each other that share a common side. All right, so if I were to make an angle, okay, so let's say I make two angles. Here's angle 1 and here's angle 2. All right. Adjacent angles are angles that are next to each other that share a common side. So here is the common side. Remember, that's a ray. You just finished covering angles. So, okay, so this is the common side between angle 1 and angle 2. So they're it looks like they're kind of glued together, but if you were to take out this common side, you'd only have one angle. So we have angle 1 and angle 2. Right, so that's what I mean by adjacent angles. Okay, they share a common side. All right, so over here it says that they're adjacent angles, so they're the same thing as this guy over here, except that they form a straight line. So it looks like this. Okay, so angle 1 and angle 2 have that common side, so that makes them adjacent, but they form a straight line between the two of them. Okay, so when that happens, if you were to lay a protractor down here, remember that little gadget I was talking about here? This is 180 degrees. Okay, if you were to see all the little degree marks on a protractor, it goes from 0 all the way to 180 because it's half a circle. Half a circle is 180. Remember, a whole circle is 360. So there's 180 degrees in a protractor. So if you were to lay the protractor down on these guys, that would end up being 180 degrees, which is what supplementary means, which I guess I could cover down here at the bottom. Again, that's a linear pair. Now, these two you've seen before. These two are from lots of other earlier grade levels that you've experienced in elementary school and middle school. Okay, it says the supplementary angles are any two angles whose sum is 180. So they don't have to be glued together like this. This is a special name. This is called, like I said, a linear pair. This can just mean that I have one angle over here that's let's say 120 degrees, and then I have another angle over here that's 60 degrees. I don't need this one here. Okay, they add up to be 180 degrees, but they're not necessarily sharing a side like they do here. Okay, so these are supplementary angles, which means they just add up to be 180 degrees. Okay, and a linear pair is a special kind of supplementary angles. That's when they are glued together. They're adjacent. They have that common side. Okay, and then complementary angles are ones that form 90 degrees. So you might have this one that's 60, and then this other one that might be 30. Okay, so just any two angles that add up to be 90 degrees. Okay, so those are the angle relationships that you need to know. So we're going to talk about more in depth, but we're going to talk about these 5 different types of angles when we go over this worksheet, and then when we go over some algebra that goes along with it. All right, so the first one says identifying types of angles. Okay, so again, these are angles that are across from each other, so they're going to be vertical. Oh, it says check all apply. I'm not following my own rules. All right, the next one says, what is the relationship between angle 1 and angle 2? All right, so angle 1 and angle 2, are they adjacent? Do they have a common side? Yes. So let's check that. Are they verticals? Are they across from each other? No. Are they complementary? Do they add to be 90 degrees? Well, if this, I don't know if you remember from the notes, but this is a 90-degree angle. So therefore, because this makes a straight line, this has to be a 90-degree angle as well. Okay, because these two angles, 90 and 90, make 180. Remember, we're talking about a straight angle. It's 180 degrees. So that's 90 plus 90 is 180. All right, so are angle 1 and angle 2 complementary? Yes, they add to be 90. Are they supplementary? No. Are they a linear pair? Do they add up to be 180 degrees? And are adjacent? Okay, remember those are the two things that it must meet. It must be angles that are glued together. Okay, but so they are adjacent, but are they supplementary? No, so they can't be a linear pair. So that's out. Okay, number 3. Okay, these angles, do they share a common side? Yes, so they are adjacent. Are they vertical? Okay, no. And I'll give you a big hint. You can't be adjacent and vertical. You can't have a common side and be on the opposite sides at the same time. So if you're adjacent, then you skip the word vertical. Complementary. Do these add to be 90 degrees? No. Okay. Supplementary. Do these add up to be 180 degrees? Well, it's hard to know that, but I can go down here to read this, which says linear pair. If these two angles, angle 1 and angle 2, form a straight line, okay, then these angles must be supplementary. So they're a linear pair and they're supplementary. Number 4. Okay, number 4 says, are they adjacent? Or do they share a common side? Yes. Again, if they're adjacent, they cannot be vertical. So this is out. Okay, complementary. Do I have any way of knowing that these add up to be 90 degrees? Nope. Okay, supplementary. Do I have any way of knowing this is equal to 180 degrees? No. So they're not supplementary, and then if they're not supplementary and they don't, the two angles don't form a straight line, because they don't, then it can't be a linear pair either. So the only thing these things are adjacent. Okay, number 5. 5 looks a little complicated, but we'll see what happens. All right. So first is angle 1 and angle 2. Are they adjacent? Do they have a common side? Nope. Okay, so this time this is out. Verticals. Okay, they are vertical because they're across from each other. Exactly across from each other. They have to be exactly across from each other. So they are vertical. Okay, do we know that this adds up to be 90 degrees? 1 and 2. Okay, so here's the trick on this one. If this is 90 degrees, and angle, and these two are marked congruent, that's what these little symbols mean, and these two are equal to each other, that means this has to be equal to this one. Alright, and if that's true, then this one has to be equal to this one because, whoops, because these are vertical angles as well. Alright, so I know that angle 1 and angle 2, do I know that they're complementary? Well, here's the trick. If this is 90, and each one of these has to add up to be a 90-degree angle, that means this has to be 45 degrees, this has to be 45 degrees, this is 90, this is 45 degrees, this is 45 degrees. So, do angle 1 and angle 2 add up to be 90? If I add 45 and 45 together, they are complementary. Now, if something's complementary, they can't be supplementary at the same time. And if they're not supplementary, they cannot be a linear pair. Okay, so that's out too. Okay, last one. Okay, last one says, okay, are they adjacent? Do they share a common side? No. Are they verticals? Yes. Again, these guys are across from each other, so they're verticals. Complementary. Now, if this is 90, then this would have to be 90 because this is a straight line, which means this is supplementary. So 90, 90 is 180. They're across from each other, so this is 90. So this is 90 as well. So all of these are 90-degree angles. Okay, so angle 1 and angle 2 do not add up to be 90, so this is out. This is 90 and this is 90. 90 plus 90 is supplementary. Now, do they form a linear pair? No, because they're not adjacent. They have to have a common side for them to be a linear pair, so this is out. Okay, so all different kinds of instances. Again, I played on some of my knowledge of other vocabulary to kind of mark these pictures. So you really need to learn your vocabulary pretty well. And once you get it down, it's not too bad.